Good afternoon. Calling the Columbus Board of Education meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Mr. Treasurer, would you please call the roll?
President Adair.
Present.
Ms. Beckerly. Present. Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Cole. Dr. Pierce.
Here.
Mr. Ragland.
Here.
Vice President Reyes.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Members, let's go through the agenda so we know what we'll be doing this evening. We do have board recognitions. We have a period of public comment. There are executive reports this evening. We also will hear the Andelin Bioscience Project tax abatement. And we have numerous items on the consent agenda. And then we will do some announcements at the end. And there is no executive session this evening. Before we adopt the agenda, I will ask that item 14.1, authority to grant diplomas for World War II, Korean conflict, and Vietnam conflict, be moved up so that we can honor our recipient, Mr. Alvin T. Meek, Jr., and so that he can be on his way and get the proper recognition that he deserves. So I will ask for that amendment if there's no objections.
So moved. Second.
Okay, Stan says we kind of did that right, but
Where would you like that?
in board recognitions, I'm sorry.
In board recognitions? Okay. Thank you. So you can take Mr. Ragland and Dr. Pierce's motion and second as the agenda as you have described it.
Can we call the roll?
Set?
Yes. Call the roll.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you. So we will now do item 14.1. So if Mr. Meek will please come to the podium. And as he's coming up, I'm also going to have the students from Walnut Ridge and Columbus Downtown High School to lead us in the pledge.
You planned it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Klein, will you please come to the podium? Would you please tell us a little bit about this program?
Absolutely. President Adair, Vice President Reyes, and members of the board, I present to you Mr. Meek. He is a veteran of foreign wars, of the Vietnam War, and this is a very special recognition where veterans that did not receive their high school diploma and have fought for our country so bravely are given a high school diploma. His attendance area puts him in the Walnut Ridge attendance area, so we're very proud to present Mr. Meek for a diploma of distinction from Walnut Ridge High School. Mr. Meek.
Congratulations to you. We are going to now move to Resolution 3.1, and I will ask Dr. Tina Pierce to make this presentation.
Thank you, President Adair. We would like to present a resolution to recognize February 3rd through 7th, 2020 as National School Counseling Week. Whereas school counselors are employed in our schools to help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development, enabling them to be ready for the challenges of the 21st century, and whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children, and whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and set realistic goals for them. And whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become productive members of society, and whereas comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in schools, whereas our school counselors are critical to the district's success in educating our students. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Columbus City Schools Board of Education hereby recognizes February 3rd through 7th, 2020 as National School Counseling Week. And let it be further resolved that the Columbus Board of Education does hereby honor and values the many contributions of Columbus City Schools counselors on the lives of our students and families and their positive impact on our community. And let it be further resolved that the Columbus Board of Education urges all Columbus residents to reflect on the outstanding work of our counselors and to express their gratitude to them for the critical role they perform in our schools with our students and families each and every day. This resolution is presented on today, Tuesday, February 4th, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Treasurer?
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
That motion carried.
And will Mr. Mitchell please come to the podium, who is our Supervisor of School Counseling and Student Support Services?
We would also like to call Peggy Cleary, who is our Executive Director of Career Technical Education, to the podium as well to receive this resolution. Thank you again for all your service to our students, family, and district.
Thank you. Good evening, President Adair, Vice President Reyes, Treasurer Bahoric, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Dixon. I am inspired every day by the work of our school counselors. I am extremely proud to lead this group of professionals, and on behalf of all school counselors, thank you for this recognition. We truly appreciate it.
Comments from the board? Oh, but did you want to talk, Peggy?
I'm just proud of being part of their team this year. They're a great group of people that really advocate for our children and get them to the next step. So it's a great day for the counselors to be recognized. Thank you.
Board Member Brown?
I just wanted to say that we've got some really great counselors, those that I've met and done some work with, and commend all of them.
Board Member Beckerly?
Just to concur, having spent having worked in the district for 13 years, the counselors are integral to everything we do, and I have a long list of those that have really affected children's lives favorably and helped me with my work, so thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, school counselors. You are very much appreciated and a big part of our team. And without you, we all can't be a success. So thank you so much. We recognize you today, this week, and every day. Mr. Treasurer, I think that we neglected to actually vote on 14.1.
I was just running a long list of notes for myself.
Okay.
Would you like to vote?
Yeah, so 14.1 was to
time.
actually certify his diploma, which is pretty important. So we got so excited about the recognitions. I apologize for that. So is there a motion to approve 14.1. Is any discussion? Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce? Yes. Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
And Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Thankfully, that motion passed.
I know. Okay. Now we are going to move into our public comment section. So for those who will be coming to the podium, just a reminder that you have 4 minutes to speak. There will be a timer, and you will be called in whatever order I have you here. So the first speaker we have who is signed up is Mr. Kevin Jamal Muhammad, who wants to talk with us about facilities and would like the board to address why we still have school buildings that are not conducive to learning for our children. Is Mr. Muhammad present? No. Okay. The next speaker is Mary Beth Camboni. The topic is pharmaceutical company affiliated with Nationwide Children's Hospital asking for tax abatement, and the board action is to listen to my concerns about this matter. Ms. Camboni here.
Good evening, President Adair, Vice President Reyes, Treasurer Bohorik, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board and Superintendent Dr. Dixon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Mary Beth Camboni. I worked at Nationwide Children's Hospital, or as I like to call it, Children's Hospital, for 15 years. For most of that time, I worked in the gene therapy department. The laboratory next to mine developed a drug to treat spinal muscular atrophy, the #1 genetic killer of infants. In 2015, my youngest daughter was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy and received that same drug in the clinical trial stage. That drug is now FDA approved and costs $2.1 million. It's the world's most expensive drug. I'm grateful to everyone who worked to bring this drug into fruition, but it's clear that there are people associated with the hospital that put profits over people. A for-profit pharmaceutical company called Adelyn Biosciences, which is a subsidiary of Children's Hospital, is asking for a 100% tax abatement from Columbus City Schools. A school district, as you know, that has been struggling for years, where some school buildings don't even have modern conveniences such as air conditioning. Adelyn Biosciences potentially can make billions of dollars off of this drug, or any drugs that they produce, and they have every right to do so. What they don't need is assistance from the city of Columbus. If anything, they should be donating its profits to Columbus City Schools, not taking money from them. Last June, you voted for a tax abatement of $55.6 million for Cover My Meds, a corporation, and teachers protested. Where does it end? This is an injustice. Does anyone care about the welfare of children? Nationwide Children's Hospital is a corporation masked as a nonprofit. It's evident in its name. It was essentially bought out by Nationwide Insurance in 2006. Abercrombie & Fitch Emergency Room is the official title of its emergency department. Now the hospital seeks to do the opposite, to start a corporation that is masked as a nonprofit, making vague promises such as expanding primary care and behavioral health service if the tax abatement is passed. Please do the right thing. Please seek justice for the children of Columbus. Please deny the request for tax abatements for Adelyn Biosciences. Thank you.
Are there any clarifying questions from the board? Thank you so much for coming to address us this evening. We will have Nationwide Children's Hospital up here later, and they may have some comments about your comments. Thank you. The next speaker we have on the list is Marvin Jones. Topic, transportation of special needs student. Board action requested, provide me with the district's policy on transportation of special needs students. Is Mr. Jones present? He is not present. We will move to speaker number 4, Sandra Waters Holly, to talk about graduation in view. Board action, address the issue of moving the graduation in view sculpture to an active school building. Welcome.
Good evening. Sorry. Good evening. My name is Sandra Waters Holly. I am a retired counselor from Columbus City Schools, 10 years, 37 years, and now I work 5 years as a consultant on violence awareness at Hamilton STEM Academy. And I work 2 days, and I love to see those kids prosper and know that violence is not the way we're going to solve anything. I come to you today with a tremendous inspiration and expectation as I address a possible opportunity that we can move a sculpture that was created by one of our own students, Tyler Bauer. Tyler was my student at Parkmore 40 years ago, and he is a media artist. He does work all over the world. He had a learning disability, and he learned how to compensate for that short-term memory by writing copious notes and creating sculptures. He had the materials. His stepfather had a shop still has a shop called Sign Graphics. I wanted the kids to know, as a counselor, that graduation is the focal point of education. And I wanted them to know the 10 top reasons why we should look forward to graduation, because so many kids don't get to graduate. In May 2006, I desired to have that visual implication of what graduation means in the heart of students. So to do this, Tyler said that he would create Graduation in View. And it has a graduation cap that is metallic and a book. I think you have the picture there that shows the 10 top reasons, and it's modeled after the old David Letterman show. You know, we talked about the 10 top reasons to graduate. And they are self-esteem, increased income, self-sufficiency, knowledge is power, job security, greater choices, respect of family and friends, enhancement of the community, legacy of achievement, and experience perseverance. And I think every kid should see that model. The model is still intact. It's at the old Douglas Elementary School, and I understand it's up for sale, but I would love for that model to be put at an active school where kids can be inspired to see graduation is a must. It's a must. You can't do without graduation. And I just want the kids to aspire to see a visual reminder that they can do anything that when they want to, even if you're in special ed, if you're in regular ed, doesn't matter. Tyler overcame all that. Tyler makes more money than I ever think I would make. So he's all over the world making animatronic figures for Walt Disney World, for theme parks in France, in Europe, all over across Europe. And he humbly does this. And he did it for a cost of, just for the cost of the materials, $600. We paid it. It is still in good condition. I go by and look at Old Douglas School and I see it, and I'm inspired myself, not to go back to school because I'm already at school, but I'm inspired that some other kids can see that model and be inspired as well. And I hope that you will consider moving that. And it was bolted to the building by CCS people, so all we got to do is take and move it to a school where kids can really reflect on what it means to graduate. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Hold on a second. Board members, are there any clarifying questions? Board Member Pierce.
So I would first like to thank you for coming to make this admirable request.
Thank you so much.
I think you show and exemplify the impact of our counselors in our
thank
buildings
you.
and with our students. So what better day than to make this request?
I did not know it was still Counselors Week. I'm sorry. But I was just
No, that's a
yeah.
good thing. The universe works. The universe works.
Yes.
So my question is, have you made a request, or do you know how much it would cost us to remove that piece of
I
art?
have no idea.
And then the second question is there a building that you have in mind for where you would like that piece
You know,
of
being absent from the
artwork
district for 10
placed?
years, you probably know more where it would be best to be put than I would. But I would like somewhere it would put where it wouldn't be defaced, because he puts so much work in. And as you see by the pictures, he has even an animatronic Mark Twain, and the kids were just so excited, asking it questions, and it talked back to them. And they just look at the sign and say, oh, I got to get my homework done so I can graduate. I got to do, just small baby steps. So I think that's important for kids, especially different learning styles, because graduation seems so far off, but it really isn't. It really isn't.
And I think it connects with our growth mindset that we want all of our students to embrace and impact as well.
Do you want Mr. Olam to address?
Mr. Odom went by to view the property.
Dr. Pierce, today when I heard about this, I went back to observe this nice piece of work. And my plan is to have our Buildings and Ground team take a look at it and see what it takes to remove it. You asked about a cost. I think what it's going to be is labor, but at this point, I don't have that cost. It appears to be, as stated earlier, just bolted to the wall. It doesn't look like it's welded in any type of manner. It also looks like it's two pieces. And so again, I think the plan is for my team would be to look at it, see what it takes to remove it. And then once we remove it, we will collaborate with our team members to figure out what's the best approach and where to put it.
Board Member Beckerly?
Thank you so much for sharing this story with us. It's a beautiful story.
Dispatch,
Right.
2006, and Tyler, I give him all the credit for wanting to do that and overcoming his disability and being such an exceptional human being.
Yes, and as a former special ed teacher at Fort Hayes, I particularly appreciate that, although our paths never overlapped. But it does occur
Yes, he
to
went
me
to
that
Fort Hayes. He said he never would have went to college if it hadn't been for Fort Hayes.
it strikes me that Fort Hayes might be a good landing place
Yes,
for
yes.
this
He
sculpture.
still talks about Fort Hayes today.
There you go. Maybe we can bring him back when we install
Oh,
it.
that would be excellent. He would love to come and speak at Fort Hayes.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
That would
Thank
be
you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. The next speaker is Michael Johnson to speak about concerns about the decision about the tax abatement, board action to be careful with deliberation. Mr. Johnson, welcome.
Thank you. President Adair and Vice President Reyes, Treasurer Bahork, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Dixon. How are you? Thanks for your generosity for providing this opportunity to the public. I'd like to just take a moment to express my gratitude for the hard work you do. I understand how hard it is, believe me. Want to also encourage you to protect the funds that support the learning of our children by voting no on the proposal of the tax abatement for Nationwide Children's Hospital. Nationwide Children's Hospital is a world-renowned hospital. The hospital's financial growth and performance has been outstanding. Nationwide Hospital is not a small startup corporation. The hospital does not need this proposed tax incentive to ensure their continued growth and success. I find it ironic that Children's Hospital, with a mission to help children, would come to a school system and request such an incentive on the backs of poor families and children. According to the 2019 CUP report, 100% of the children in Columbus Public Schools are considered disadvantaged. And the median income is $31,000 for families here. Nationwide points to the hospital's commitment to resources to the school district. I would submit they should commit these resources without strings attached because they live in this urban community. Nationwide Children's Hospital has its advocates. Many of them may be here in the room right now. They are here to represent the needs and interests in Nationwide Children's Hospital. Nationwide Children's Hospital business and corporate officials should advocate for the needs and interests of their hospital. Columbus School Board, however, should advocate and vote on behalf of the needs and interests of public school children. As school board members, You are their only official advocate. Before the Board of Education approves the 100% 15-year abatement, it is important to consider that the school district is being asked to give up in order to assist this private development. Columbus City Schools is one of the few, if not only, growing school district in Ohio. Generally speaking, growing districts do not seek out and approve aggressive tax incentives and abatements. You need every dollar. Columbus City Schools has responsibility for educating 50,000 students with multiple and complex needs. They all need to be addressed. The district needs every dollar. The current biennium budget freezes are affecting your school district and every school district in Ohio. Therefore, the only growth in revenue in Columbus would be through local property and tax levies. And I want you to be assured I will support every needed tax levy that Columbus brings forward to the community. With the potential expansion of EdChoice, which could have devastating impacts on your district, and considering the funding for public education is at a crossroads in Ohio, every dollar redirected away from classrooms will impact our children for generations to come. Columbus City Schools does amazing things for its students and the community. Strong programming for students, wonderful teachers. We need to protect any and all revenue resources to help our children achieve in our school district. Thank you.
First, do you have any questions? Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today. Children's Hospital, again, may want to address some of those issues when they come up. Thank you so much. Our last speaker this evening is Michael Aaron. Topic, Nationwide Children's Hospital tax abatement. Board action, consider their proposal for the business association. Mr. Aaron.
Good evening, President Adair, Vice President Reyes, Treasurer Bohoric, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Dixon. Good evening to you all. I would first like to thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to speak before you. My name is Michael Aaron, a 25-year resident of the historic Driving Park community. And on January 28th, I was authorized by leaders of the Livingston Avenue corridor to send you a letter asking you to hold the vote on tonight's vote for Nationwide Children's Hospital and the 100% tax abatement that is now before you as number 8. We ask you to hold on to voting because our community had concerns relating to the levying of further taxes. Let me explain. It was recently reported in This Week that the home prices in Driving Park have risen over 29% in the last year. Our community is primarily African American, senior citizens, and working class people. The average home price now is listed at $200,000. Any further taxes that will ever be levied by this school board or any other county agency will fall on the shoulders of the people who are not receiving any abatements. Those people who are moving into new condos, no taxes. Those people who are in businesses, no taxes. It falls on the shoulders of the people who have been there 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, or myself, 25 years. So, Nationwide Children's Hospital has been a good partner to the community. We admit that. We asked you to hold on. So on yesterday, thanks to many of your members who spoke up on behalf of our community, Livingston Avenue met with Nationwide Children's Hospital, and we had a proposal. We need your support of Livingston Avenue. See, there's much development happening all over the South Side, but this predominantly African-American, sorry, my phone just fell. This predominantly African-American community is receiving very little commercial development along Livingston Avenue, and Nationwide Children's Hospital has the leverage to make that happen. we need their assistance. It's as simple as this, and I would advocate that all communities do this moving forward in relation to tax abatements. If any business wants a tax abatement, if they are being located in your community, there has to be a benefit for the people that live there. Not just for the business, but a direct benefit for the people who live around that business. Support the civic association, business association, nonprofits, something. Support the neighborhoods directly. And Nationwide Children's Hospital has agreed to do so. That being said, including, and let me put this on the record, the support of the Neighborhood Commercial Revitalization designation for Livingston Avenue, the NCR district, which is authorized by the City of Columbus. And they've agreed to send a letter to Mayor Ginther and to the Columbus City Council advocating and using their leverage to ensure that we get that designation, because that will help our commercial district. I can't even walk down the street to buy a cup of coffee on Livingston Avenue because we don't have any businesses. We have carryouts. But Parsons Avenue is glorious. And it's a totally different demographic of people. And you all know what I mean. That said, I've been authorized this evening to remove our objection. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aaron, for coming to speak with us. Board members, do you have any clarifying questions? Mr. Aaron, come back. We actually have questions for you.
I speak and I walk away. I'm so
That's
sorry.
okay. Board member Ragland.
Have you secured that agreement in writing from Nationwide Children's Hospital?
Well, now, so after the meeting, that came across my mind immediately as soon as I pulled away. And knowing that Angela Mingo, Community Relations Director, was having a meeting directly after mine with Pastor Frederick Lamar, who had the same concerns that we do, and thank you, Pastor Lamar, for your support. Hello. I drove over to the church and met Angela Mingo in the parking lot. And I said, hello, Angela, one more thing before we're done. I said, can you have this letter of support, this NCR designation letter of support, in writing by 1 o'clock tomorrow? That way, before I go down here to this meeting, I know what I'm going to say. Yay, nay, or just remove it. And she says, well, let me call you back. And so she called me as promised later yesterday evening, and she says, well, Michael, here's the thing. I spoke with Patty McClellan, who's sitting right behind me, and she's all for it. Write the letter. However, this has to go to the top leadership. And I'm not sure if by 1 o'clock tomorrow, we can have this written out and approved, because we need to know how this NCR designation works. So she wrote an email to me, and I can forward it to you after this, but you know. She wrote an email to me, and it said, we support the increase of businesses and revitalization on Livingston Avenue, but it didn't mention NCR. Maybe the letter's forthcoming. That's why I said I'm going to say it on the record, because Patty was in the meeting. And NCR, yes? She says yes, NCR. So that's what they said.
Pierce?
So if possible, my question relates to all individuals that gave comment this evening. So if Mary Beth Cambone, am I saying that right, could come forward, as well as Mr. Michael Johnson. So I'm being told that's not the way we do it, but my question does relate to you all, so I want to give you the opportunity to speak. So please note Dr. Pierce is breaking protocol to give our community the opportunity to speak.
Well, hold on. Yeah. I want to give the community an opportunity to speak. Go ahead and ask your,
It's a
just ask your
clarifying question.
That's not what.
So here's the question. First of all, let me thank you all for coming and serving as advocates for our community and being vigilant around us protecting the financial stability of our district and ensuring that our resources go to support our students in schools, and that we hold our commercial, as well as our nonprofit organizations to a high standard and regard in supporting our schools, students, and families. So I appreciate that. Understanding that at times, companies and nonprofits, just because nonprofits are named nonprofits does not mean they do not make a profit. Understanding that organizations can sometimes put profit above people. I want to clarify that Ms. Cambone and Mr. Johnson, your comments relate to the issue of direct impact on students in schools as it regards this tax abatement. Yes. Mr. Aaron, your comments relate to the economic development of Parsons Avenue as it relates to the business that Nationwide Children's Hospitals conducts throughout the Central Ohio region.
Relating to Livingston Avenue.
Livingston Avenue. Your issue that Parsons has been developed and Livingston Avenue has not been developed.
Correct.
So you want the designation of NRC.
Correct. As well as the amount of taxes that will come along in the future with further levies, which we will support. However, it will be a smaller and smaller minority of folks considering the larger amount of tax abatements that might come in the future.
Thank you. So that clarifying question to me is very important because it helps our board understand the context that there's two separate issues here. The first issue is how does this tax abatement directly impact our students, family, and schools? The second issue then is how does this tax abatement impact directly the neighborhood in which Nationwide Children's Hospital is doing its work? And so I just want to make sure that our board understands the two issues and that we're very clear in our deliberation on how your comments relate to those two issues, and we understand what type of action we can take. So again, to clarify, as it relates to Mr. Aaron's comments, that would involve us cooperating, partnering, and collaborating with other governmental institutions to ensure that Livingston Avenue is given the neighborhood designation of NCR to promote economic development on Livingston Avenue, whereas our first two comments related directly to the impact on our students, families, and schools.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Thank you all for remaining standing. Thank you. Any other comments to Mr. Aaron? Okay, thank you so much. We actually have one more speaker that was not on my list, but I believe is here, Howard Thornton, to speak about the athletic travel concerns. Mr. Thornton?
President Adair, Vice President Reyes, Treasurer Bohoric, Internal Auditor Smith, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Dixon. My name is Howard Thornton. My daughter plays basketball for Columbus City Schools, a high school that finished #2 in the country last year. And this weekend on Friday the 31st, they traveled to Washington, D.C. to play the team that finished first in the nation last year, which we were undefeated. They wouldn't. We should have been #1. But I have concerns about the reservations that were made for the team out of town, and this was given to me by staff and the players once they arrived in Washington, D.C. The hotel was more like a motel where the doors were outside in a sketchy neighborhood, which was judged by the bulletproofing throughout the lobby. Upon walking into the lobby, they saw what looked like a homeless man sleep on the couch under covers. He was actually the clerk to the hotel. The rooms were filthy, had bugs all over them. So children, especially mine being in AAU over the years with my child, said, "Dad, I looked on AAU or looked on the review website, and there were several accounts of bed bugs, et cetera, et cetera." I also have pictures, but this was a last minute thing, so they're on my phone. But that's here nor there. The staff tried to contact the athletic director with no avail to the school. They did talk with the principal, but the outcome was that half of the staff and students, including my daughter, slept in the parking lot in Washington, D.C. On the bus. No parents were contacted. My wife and I were 10 minutes away at a nice DoubleTree, room service, everything, but we couldn't go pick up our baby because we were not contacted. I called down to the office of the main athletic director's office yesterday, talked to the receptionist, and said that the athletic director was not in, left a message, he will return my call. I didn't receive any phone calls yesterday or today, so after I got off of work, I went straight up there and talked to him and the principal. They told me that they investigated, but no egregious errors were made in the reservation process. But my question was, what about the aftermath? No parents were contacted there or up to this point now, even upon the request of the coach saying to the staff and administration, we should tell the parents what happened. Some parents, we only know because of word of mouth. So my next question was then, when our children are out of town or anything like that, is there anything in place that if the bus catches on fire, if there's a snowstorm, is my child going to be laying on the berm of the highway? The main AD told me he wasn't sure. To my response being, that is something that should have been known before my child even left Columbus. So going further, if there are not any, and like I said, this was a last minute thing, so I didn't have time to put together any, find out if there were any rules or regulations in place. Asking the man in charge, were there? He told me no. So can the board consider a plan B, a stipend? He told me that even in, what do you call it, petty cash, we can't do that even, so there's no contingencies for our children when we're out of town. So can the board please consider, when our children leave Columbus, instead of him saying to me, which he did, that there were, my time is out, okay, instead of telling me that, well, maybe if this continues, we might not travel anymore, this is not the students' faults, this is the adults. I've been doing this with years for my children, AAU, I'm on the board with those people. We do and deal with travel agents all the time. If something happens, even with parents, hey guys, can you reach in your pocket? We'll reimburse you when you get back, but let's make sure the children are safe. So for him to say to me that there's nothing in place when my child was out of town, that's very unacceptable. She slept on the bus. They played the next morning, lost by 1 point at the buzzer, but hey, we were proud of them anyway. So please consider, when we go out of town, the coaches, I don't care if it's a quick credit card or something, they just have in case of emergency, because I don't even know if that's in place, but I'm here today, straight from the school, just to ask if this can be put into place for our children when they are away. I don't care if it's a band, I don't care if it's a chess team, whatever. Make sure our children are taken care of when they are away from the city.
Much for bringing this to our attention, Mr. Thornton. Madam Superintendent, before I ask the board for comments, was your office made aware, staff made aware of this?
Made aware today. We also have our district AD, Dr. Vincent Clarino, is in the office if he wants to here tonight in the audience if you want to come forth. And also Mr. Maurice Odom may have comments. But I would like to say student safety is paramount. And we want to make sure at all the times that we have our students in excellent accommodations. So I'm not sure what happened specifically in this case, but it is not our practice that our students are in danger or in accommodations that are not suitable. But I want to make that statement clear. And then
it has been good up to this point, so yeah. It's not, I'm not saying y'all the school did a bad job across the board.
But
it's just
something happened in this instance.
Nothing in place, right, just in case something happens, a snowstorm, a fire, something like that.
So Dr. Clarino, would he come up forward? Thank you. And Dr. Clarino is our district athletic director.
Good evening, Dr. Dixon. Good evening. President Adair, Vice President Reyes, members of the board, Stan, bro, guess indeed I'm sitting here, I'm drawing a bump, staring right at your name, Internal Auditor Smith. So Mr. Thornton and I did get an opportunity to speak today. There was some accuracy in his statement to the fact that he did call. There were other parents that called our office yesterday. I spoke with some of those parents. I did not get an opportunity to speak with Mr. Thornton yesterday. He arrived at the office earlier this afternoon to share with me some concerns that he had about the trip from this weekend. During that time, I was on my way out to another meeting that was already scheduled. We stopped for a moment and had a discussion. I was somewhat surprised because as Mr. Thornton and I were talking, he had shared with me during our conversation, he said, hey, as we were shaking hands, you and I are cool. It's not an issue. I understand it. I said, I do got to go, though. At that point, I think my urgency maybe upset Mr. Thornton a little bit because I've known him for quite some time, and I think we have a great relationship. Speaking more specifically to the trip in question, the athletic director put together a package for this travel for the team this year to go to Washington, D.C. It's important to note that they've traveled several times to other places, Detroit, Chicago. They've been to Cleveland. They've been to a lot of places over the past several years. The coach that they use, which is the Cavalier Company, is a coach that we've used plenty of times. Mr. Thornton shared with me that they had some challenges with that coach in the past. That wasn't something that I've known. I looked it up financially to see if we had used this coach in the past. It's one that we used. I pulled up the same information online for the hotel reservation. And so when you look at it, it does not appear to be a hotel that is not adequate or suitable for travel, for kids, or for anyone for that matter. But in this case, it wasn't suitable for the students when they arrived. They didn't like the conditions, and there were some questionable conditions as well that we've been informed with. I see Mr. Thornton shaking his head. No, it was not questionable or it was questionable? I wasn't sure.
If you look online, like my daughter did, if you look at reviews, because that's what we've done over the years for AAU. We don't look at pictures, because pictures, you can make the greatest place look wonderful. It took me, I got a DoubleTree in the city of Washington, D.C., about 8 minutes from the site, $60 a night, which I paid less than them. But I looked at the reviews. It took me 15, 20 minutes. So if the AD, not Mr. Clarno, but if the AD would have done a little bit more due diligence and just read some reviews, they would have found bed bugs like crazy, unsafe neighborhood, things like that. You can't get those things from a picture of a room. So going forward, like Mr. Clarno said, up to this point, everything's been good. All I'm worried about is the plan B that we have in place. If something should happen like that, I don't want my child laying on a bus in a parking lot in Washington, D.C. Or any city for that matter. Last year it was Chicago. Like Mr. Clarno stated, the Cavalier Company was the bus system that we went with. I didn't bring that up to you guys, but what happened 2 years ago, we traveled to Detroit on Cavalier. Nobody liked the bus. So last year, if it was Cavalier, we told them, which the coach expressed to me, he think it was Urban that we went with, because we didn't want to do that one again, but he said he could be mistaken, but it was a wonderful bus. This year, we went back to the Temptations bus. That bus was so old, it was ridiculous. No phone jack plugs. The girls are up in arms, but we have,
Superintendent, everyone, this clearly is an important issue, and we certainly do not want any child to feel that they are in danger. Because this is a discussion I think that is important, I would suggest that we continue this offline, that we get these questions answered, that we do ensure, our policies are followed. And so I will just ask that we continue this even outside the door, if that works for everyone here in the room, because this is important, and I feel like we could talk about this a long time this evening. Okay. Are there any clarifying questions that directly relate to what Mr. Thornton has said? Mr. Ragland?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam President. Madam Superintendent, if you could have staff pull the travel policy specifically around scheduling and how travel is scheduled, how it is allocated, across the district, who is the one that determines what coach is used, who is the one that determines what hotel is used, how are those resources devoted to each school per trip. So essentially, if if we have one school, School A goes to Washington DC, and School B goes to Washington DC on the exact same trip, how are they, equitable? Is School A going on the same coach as School B? Is School A staying at the same hotel as School B? If not, why not? I'd like to know that type of information, because if there's something where maybe there's some boosters that are involved that allow for other trips to be a bit more pleasant for our students, we might need to address that particular issue. I did hear Mr. Thornton very loud and clear that a lot of the comparison, and particularly when we have student athletes that are playing at a high level outside of their high school team, they may be used to different accommodations on these types of trips than what the district may be able to provide. And so those are the types of things that we have to make sure from a policy perspective that we're addressing those issues directly. And so if you could have staff pull that policy for me, and then if there's anything ancillary that occurs at the school level, maybe Dr. Clarno would be the one to kind of let me know, here's the policy, but here's literally how something would happen at, School A versus School B. I would really appreciate that.
Sure, okay.
Thank you.
Brown?
Yeah, just briefly. I don't know off the top of my head whether there's a policy issue here or not. There may not be any policy issue whatsoever. And at this stage, I don't know the facts well enough. But administratively, Dr. Dixon, you and your team are going to get into it. And as you work through it, if you come across policy questions that may need to be addressed, please, let me know, and we can easily do that. But in general, the policy has worked for us nearly always, and there's no reason to believe that it's a matter of policy, but certainly if it is, let me know. Thank you.
Board Member Beckerly?
To clarify, Mr. Thornton, I think I hear two concerns, and I think one is much more significant than the other. The first is, what's the process to pick the hotel, and how did we end up with one that was substandard? But more importantly, I hear, what's the process when there's a problem in terms of like a phone tree or a procedure? And I think that we need to make sure we address both of those, because one is certainly of much greater concern than the other.
I agree.
Okay.
Board Member Pierce?
So, Dr. Dixon, I would just like to request any information related to the role that direct district departments might play in the selecting of hotels and coaches. So do we have any vendor agreements, anything on the operation side that further dictates what hotels and coaches are selected?
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Or something like that.
You're going with him. You're going with him.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and move into our executive reports. Madam Superintendent, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, so thank you. So first, I'm excited to begin a new addition to the board meeting agenda tonight. During each regular business meeting through the end of the school year, I am asking student ambassadors from 2 of our high schools to provide an update to the board on important events and critical issues at their school. Our focus for the student ambassadors this year has been centered on student advocacy and agency. We want to ensure our students have the opportunity to speak publicly, and what better venue than with our Board of Education. So I would like to welcome to the podium the student ambassadors from Columbus Downtown High School and Walnut Ridge High School to come forward with their reports tonight. And we have Mia Pruitt, who is the advisor for our superintendent student ambassadors. Ms. Pruitt, would you like to bring a word before the students come up?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, President Adair, Vice President Reyes, members of the board, Madam Auditor, Treasurer Pahoric, and Superintendent Dr. Dixon. My name is Mia Pruitt, and I serve as the District Coordinator for the Superintendent Student Ambassador Program. In this program, the student ambassadors have an opportunity to develop and hone their leadership abilities while serving as a liaison between their schools and the superintendent office. This year's theme is student voice and self-advocacy, and one small way in which the students are expressing student voice this semester is presenting here today and sharing a little bit about their school. So without further ado, I am pleased to introduce to you the Superintendent Student Ambassadors from Columbus Downtown High School and following Walnut Ridge.
Thank you, Mama Mia. Hello, my name is Janai Wakil, and I'm one of the student ambassadors for Columbus Downtown High School. Why downtown? I chose downtown because downtown is a great pathway to success. We have several different programs, which are culinary, education, IT manufacturing, public safety, cosmetology, and IT programming. Students in some programs have the chance to earn college credits, while other students allow you to earn industry credentials that will permit you to work in the field immediately after graduation. Students have the opportunity to show their skills throughout the day. During cosmetology and manicure, students provide hair and nail services to the public. The culinary students run a cafe that is open Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 12, so feel free to stop by. In addition to being work-ready, Columbus Downtown High School will also help students with their plans to attend college. In 2019, Downtown received $8 million in scholarships and grants, which was the highest amount received in Columbus Downtown history. Downtown students have the ability to work with I Know I Can. I Know I Can helps students assist them with college applications and a financial aid process. This year, through the help of I Know I Can, I was able to attend a college visit and will also get to attend a day in the life of a Buckeye program where I will have the opportunity to experience the life of a college student for a day at OSU main campus. Our student is very diverse and includes students from many different cultures and backgrounds. Aminata will now share the experience of an ESL student. Thank you.
So hello, my name is Aminata Saw, and I'm going to talk about the diversity at Downtown High School. Our school is a very diverse school, and there are students from every Columbus City school, as well as from Westerville, Grandview, Upper Arlington, and other charter schools. This also helps students learn about other schools and help them learn about the surrounding area. Even though downtown is made up from the entire district, we all come together as one team. In addition to diversity, Columbus Downtown has also shown an outstanding academic success. Downtown High School ESL has shown an excellent progress on the OELPA test, which is a language test for English test learner. The ESL teacher told us that in 2019, OELPA Downtown had the most students meeting or exceeding the state target of all high school. We got the trophy, and we got the stuff. As you may know, Downtown High School is not a school board program, so all scores go back to home school. As an ESL student myself, I've seen improvement in my English and in classes. We have worked so hard this year practicing our English skills that we cannot wait to show you our improvement on this year OELPA. I hope that you have learned about something for Downtown High School, and thank you for your time.
Principal Cheryl Watson. Where's Cheryl? If you stand up, please. Downtown High School principal. And I think our ESL director, Michael Sain, is here as well. Yeah, the airport. Okay, and who's up next? Walnut Ridge. Come on up. The real Walnut Ridge.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fatimata Sise, and this is Darren Newell. We are both superintendent student ambassadors and attend Walnut Ridge High School, home of the Scots. We have come here today to tell you the real story about the Walnut Ridge that Darren and I experience every day.
As you know,
Walnut Ridge is a neighborhood school serving Columbus's Far East Side. We have well over 700 students enrolled representing more than 25 countries and languages. It's a place where students from all backgrounds find friends, get involved, and gain a great education. As we speak, about 50% of our seniors with a college-bound GPA of 2.0 or higher have applied to college. To help our students be college and career ready, Walnut Ridge offers a variety of regular and advanced placement courses. We can take advanced placement classes in AP US Government and AP Human Geography to AP Biology and AP Spanish. Next year, we will be the only high school to offer AP Psychology. We are one of the only 2 Columbus City schools to offer Honors English 9 and 10. We have the only high school Apple Lab coding course. Students also take statistics through social justice that helps them understand math as a tool for social change. One topic students have chosen to study this year is how mass incarceration impacts many of our families' economic, social, and health outcomes. One class that Walnut Ridge is fortunate enough to have is our construction class, which not only teaches students the fundamentals of building and construction, but also serves as an alternative pathway to graduation. Students in the class have built seating in our main office, picnic tables outside of our cafeteria, shelving for our food pantry and our uniform closet, and have beautified our building by hanging pictures and banners throughout the halls and common areas.
Yes. And also this year, our athletic department has added several accomplishments to an already long list. Our soccer and girls basketball teams are very competitive, and our chess team holds a respectable record in the City League. Our football team won the city championship, and our wrestling team won the city dual meet last Thursday. We are optimistic that our boys basketball team will take home a city championship in the upcoming weeks. One of our students' favorite club is Class Clowns. It's an improv group. So think Saturday Night Live or In Living Color. Class Clowns competes in improv competitions in and all around Central Ohio. Just a few weeks ago, our mock trial competition team competed against schools from and all over Central Ohio in the 37th annual mock trial competition. Even though we didn't win, I can say it was an unforgettable experience. And even better was when I met Mayor Andrew Gillum of Tallahassee, Florida, later that day. He told our team that he too started out as a participant in mock trial when he was in high school.
We aren't only about academics and sports, although, but Walnut Ridge is a caring school as well. We created a food pantry, fought to set up a school laundry for students, and have a well-stocked uniform closet to keep students who struggle in clean clothes. I'm a member of the Food Pantry Club, and there we learn about food insecurity, food deserts, and how to inventory, organize, and sustain the pantry over the long term. This year, Walnut Ridge started the 4841 book clubs. Right now, we have 8 different book clubs led by teachers and other staff members. Even one of our safety and security members holds a book club during lunch. Not only that, but we have a STEM robotics team and even a social justice club that has advocated for free CODA for all of Franklin County.
Yes. In each grading period, students are honored for their achievements in academics. Just last week, over 100 students were honored for receiving a 3.0 or above and having less than 3 absences and no in-school or out-of-school suspensions. Our criteria for being recognized keeps getting tougher and tougher, but we are beginning to understand that there's no point in complaining. As Nike says it, we just have to just do it.
We are a dynamic school full of students striving for the future. We are real, we are powerful, we are Walnut Ridge. Thank you.
Wave your hand, the principal there. So let's give all of our students, stand up one more time, ambassadors. Woo! So And this is experience we need to make sure our students, have. We want them on stage, and they should be on stage in front of us, telling us about the exciting things that are happening in their schools. You did an excellent job, and you guys were nervous, but you did not show it. So I appreciate that. But this is going to happen every board meeting. You're going to be hearing from our students about the wonderful things in their schools. So thank you very much for that. Next, we had a NetJets part. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
So, Dr. Dixon, I just wanted to make sure that people were aware about the Student Ambassador Program in itself. So we kind of just presented for the first time our Student Ambassador Programs. Several years ago, members of the Public Engagement Committee, after board members attended the Council of Great City Schools, came back to the district and presented and talked about creating an ambassador program for the schools. Ari Tolles was on the Public Engagement Committee, and we talked about how do we create a mechanism where we can have students provide us direct feedback, other than just the surveys. So we do survey our students, but we wanted to, if we needed to implement a policy, we wanted to hear about a policy, we wanted to hear about academics, we wanted to hear directly from the students. We talked about what does that look like, and other districts were doing that. We brought that, it's been in existence for about 4 or 5 years now. And thank you, Dr. Dixon, for continuing it. I think it's a great avenue for especially some of the new board members. It's direct access and direct feedback from some of our leaders. And then also, we also look to our principals to select students that, just with that additional exposure to the superintendent, or they just need a little bit of lift to say they can be a little bit better student and have some impact, given them the opportunity to be a student ambassador, I think is a very good highlight of that. I just wanted to make sure before we moved on that we talked about what a student ambassador was.
So thank you for that context. And I would like to say, when I first was hired, I met with the student ambassadors, and they shared with me some of the experiences and exposure that they wanted. And hopefully they were putting this in action. So we meet monthly, but because of Ms. Pruitt and others, they're the ones that are kind of behind the scenes and making sure that our students have what they need. But I think it's, as I stated before, that it is important that we put our students on stage, and what a wonderful way to do it. So thank you. Thank you. So much like inviting our student ambassadors to speak at board meetings, I am committed to providing opportunities and experiences for our students. We recently launched an exciting new partnership with NetJets, the global leader in private aviation and a company based in Columbus. We have collaborated with NetJets to develop a mentoring program for female students interested in STEM careers. A total of 18 young women from Beechcroft High School and Northland High School will work in teams with NetJets mentors to design a problem-solve sustainability issue over the course of 10 weeks. The girls will also be exposed to non-traditional STEM-focused career opportunities in the aviation field. The students took a tour of the NetJets facilities during the kickoff event in January, including the hangar and inside of a private plane. The girls also talked with meteorologists and additional logistics staff in the NetJets Flight Control Center. Our students need access to the entire community, so it is important we take our partnerships and bring them alive for our students. We need partners like NetJets who are eager and willing to work in collaboration with the district to provide opportunities and experiences for our students that extend their learning beyond the classroom and expose them to careers for the 21st century. Next, I want to provide an update on our efforts around the 2020 census. We all believe that every child should count in the upcoming census, and on Wednesday, which is tomorrow, Mayor Ginther and the County Commissioner Kevin Boyce will host the next meeting of the Joint 2020 Census Complete Count Committee, which is made up of a broad spectrum of local government and community leaders from education, business, nonprofits, and other community organizations. I'm proud to serve as the education chair on the committee and work with our engagement team to coordinate our district's efforts to encourage all of our CCS families to be counted. Executive Director Scott Varner is here tonight to give us a very brief update on the work of the Complete Count Committee and the efforts in our classrooms with our partners. Mr. Varner?
Thank you. I was going to ask one of those students to do this because they did such an awesome job. President Adair, members, thank you, Dr. Dixon. It's February, which means that love is in the air, but so is the census. At each of your seats and up on our screen, you received this fast fact sheet provided by the census. It's an example of some of the educational materials that our teachers are using to connect the upcoming census to learning in the classroom. At every grade level, our teachers have the opportunity to use these fun facts to discuss the types of information that are collected during the census and then how that data can be used to make inferences or to think about the future. For example, on there, we learn where most of our chocolate comes from, whether it be from New York or Pennsylvania. In fact, the chocolate that I left at your desk comes from a company that has factories all over, but including one near Hershey, Pennsylvania. Teachers would use that information, again, to link the census to learning, and so they might also graph or chart the percentages on marriage that you see on there, and then be asked to think about, what do they think about that data? What can they see for changes in the future? So twice a month, our academic team is sending out these activities as well as teacher guides. These are generated by the Statistics in Schools Initiative through the U.S. Census. So I want to thank Leslie Kelly and all of the academic team for helping pull these together. For example, just this past month in January, our students analyzed data to demonstrate how certain aspects of the lives of African Americans, such as population centers, voting rates, and education levels, have changed since Dr. Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. So students charted that and looked at the future. Later this month, students will examine data on the number of immigrants and new Americans in the United States to create bar graphs and graphs. Then they'll compare that data to draw conclusions about the future. So those are just a couple of examples of the way in which we are promoting the census, and these activities tie directly to our learning standards on math, social studies. That's something our teachers appreciate. We are also working with our after-school partners to provide some of these similar activities so that they can kind of continue the learning even after school. So you might see some of these activities also online and on social media. But in addition to the work that we have in the classroom, we have an engagement effort that's in partnership with the Complete Count Committee put together by Columbus and Franklin County. As Dr. Dixon mentioned, we are just one part of that Complete Count Committee, and it includes representatives of, so many different organizations. The Boys and Girls Club, Future Ready, United Way, Ohio State, MORPSI, the Community Shelter Board, Huck House, the Central Ohio Metropolitan Housing Authority, our partners at the Community Refugee and Immigration Services, CRIS, the Ohio Latino Affairs Commission, the Asian American Commerce Group, the NAACP, Stonewall Columbus, the Columbus Partnership, the Franklin County Reentry Task Force, CODA, the Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging, our Veteran Services, the Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and the AFL-CIO Central Ohio Labor Council. So it's a lot of partners coming together, and tomorrow, as Dr. Dixon mentioned, is the full committee. So we'll get a chance to hear about the outreach activities that all of our partners are engaging in and see how best we can connect. We'll also get an update from the U.S. Census Bureau itself because the national campaign is already underway. You may have already seen some of the advertising, including some television ads this past weekend when a lot of people were watching television during the Super Bowl. That are meant to build kind of that initial awareness about the census. And starting in March 15th, you'll start to see an even greater level of outreach that's really designed to inspire and then motivate everyone to complete the census either online, by phone, or by mail. In closing, there are many of us promoting the message that every child should be counted, that everyone in our district has an opportunity to shape our future. And so I will leave you with that on April 1st, the first day of the census, we're working together with our academic team and engagement teams together to come up with a district-wide activity that all of our students can be a part of to really promote taking advantage of shaping our future through the census. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So next, I would like to provide an update on the timeline for our curriculum audit. As you know, the Phi Delta Kappa auditors were here in Columbus in December to interview a broad base of district stakeholders and observe the teaching and learning happening in our classrooms. This is not to mention the work of Phi Delta Kappa team has been doing behind the scenes, reviewing documents and protocols in order to provide a comprehensive overview of our district. We expect to present the findings at a board meeting in April, when the lead auditor from Phi Delta Kappa will be here in person. We are committed to reviewing the findings during a public meeting and discussing what the next steps for the district may be. I look forward to engaging all of our district stakeholders on what the results mean for the future of Columbus City Schools. A portrait of a graduate. Additionally, we're moving along with our portrait of a graduate process. We hosted 4 community conversations across the district during the month of January, wrapping up at Wedgwood Middle School last week. We're pleased with the turnout and engagement at the meetings, not to mention our viewers for each event on Facebook Live. From here, we're working with the team at Battelle for Kids to compile the feedback we received in January and to share it at our next design team meeting this month. As a reminder, our design team includes nearly 150 stakeholders from across the city, including teachers, staff, administrators, students, families, community partners, and civic leaders. The design team would take the feedback from the community conversations and begin to discuss the most critical attributes that could make up a portrait of Columbus City School graduate. This portrait would serve as the educational vision for our schools, bringing our community together with a shared purpose to articulate our community's aspiration for every student in Columbus City Schools. We expect to have this portrait ready to share in the spring. And finally, I would invite our academic services team to the podium to present on the Columbus City Schools Summer Experience offering. Our team has been working hard over the past few months to develop an expanded curriculum that offers enrichment opportunities for students in K through 12, in addition to the typical credit recovery courses. We're excited about the possibilities that the new summer program has to offer our students. With that, I would like to turn it over to our academic services team, led by Dr. Tracy Ocasio.
Good evening. Our team has really been looking forward to sharing this information with you. And so I'm not going to take any more time. I'm going to bring them up. However, there will be a quiz at the end, and we will be asking you which experience you would select should you be in the appropriate age band to attend that experience. And you can pretend. But we will ask you which experience you thought would be of interest to you. And so we're very excited to share this information about the vision for that 2020 summer school experience. And so the team, I'm going to ask them to come up at this time.
Good evening, Madam President, Vice President Reyes, members of the board, Treasurer Bohoric, Internal Auditor Smith, and of course, Dr. Dixon. And hello to our viewing and listening audience as well. My name is Kira Sloanbach. I'm the Director of Academic Innovation, Programming, and Related Services for Special Education, and I'm thrilled to be here. Tonight, our team will introduce the Columbus City Schools Summer Experience. This program comprises opportunities for all of our students. You will hear details that evidence the work of an interdisciplinary team that include ELL, special education, gifted and talented, curriculum, college and career readiness, and early childhood education. Here are some of the overarching details of the program. You'll notice we've taken a regional approach when determining sites. We are hosting the summer experience across 12 air-conditioned locations across the city. Summer programming will span the dates of June 15th to July 24th. And most importantly, we're excited to share that we've really focused our development plans on an enriching program that is inclusive to all student groups. Ann Lockett, Director of Early Childhood Education, will first introduce the preparations underway for our youngest learners. I need this prop, sorry. So without further delay, welcome, and despite the weather outside, to summer 2020, where the future is very bright.
Thank you very much, Kira. I am also very excited to be here to share the Jumpstart to Kindergarten program. Jumpstart to Kindergarten will offer our kindergarten students the opportunity to experience kindergarten before school even starts. Our students will be in our elementary schools with our teachers, building relationships. Students will learn classroom routines, classroom expectations, while developing soft skills, which we know are crucial to academic success. Skills like making friends, sharing, taking turns, and learning to transition from one activity to another. Large and small group instruction will focus on early literacy and math, and also social-emotional skills. We will also offer, thank you. We will also offer bus safety and a cafeteria experience. The program also has a family and community engagement component focused on building strong home-school connections. Our families will have an opportunity to spend time in their building and exploring their own child's transition to kindergarten. The Division of Early Childhood Education is very excited to welcome our young learners into Columbus City Schools' Jumpstart to Kindergarten program. Here to tell you more about the elementary summer school program is Leslie Kelly, Director of Elementary Curriculum.
Thank you, Ann. Good evening. I am delighted to share our renovated summer elementary experience that focuses on the whole child through the 4 equal domains outlined in Ohio's Strategic Plan for Education. Those 4 domains are foundational knowledge and skills, well-rounded content, leadership and reasoning, and social-emotional learning. Through our K-2 Growing and Going mini camps, Pollinators and Habitat Hunters, Garden Gastronomy, Jurassic Franklin Park, Pirate Palooza, Summer Science Nature Detective, and Art in Nature, students will build literacy and math foundational skills by participating in integrated, interactive, hands-on learning that cultivates critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. The summer experience mini camps are inspired by programming that is offered by our programming and planning partner, Franklin Park Conservatory. The Growing and Going experience will also provide opportunities for learning beyond the classroom through embedded partner visits and field trips to our CCS Spruce Run Nature Center and Franklin Park Conservatory. We continue our focus on the whole child and our commitment to providing quality enrichment and learning opportunities for all students through their intermediate grades Exploring and Excelling program. 3rd through 5th grade students will also have the opportunity to participate in mini camps that build literacy and numerical thinking through integrated problem and project-based learning that fosters design thinking, ingenuity, collaboration, and communication. The 6 mini camps, Mission to Mars, Gadgets to Go, Robotics, Coaster Creators, Gross Science Bodyworks, and my favorite, Superhero Science, are inspired by workshops available through the Center of Science and Industry, better known as COSI, our planning and programming partner. The Summer Exploring and Excelling experience will also provide learning beyond the classroom opportunities through in-person and virtual visits from the COSI team, as well as field trips to COSI for all of our 3rd through 5th grade summer experience students. to share a summer opportunity for a special group of exceptional learners, I welcome Kira back to the podium.
Thank you, Leslie. For our exceptional elementary and middle school learners, we are offering a 4-week, full-day enrichment experience. This program is designed for students that require significant support throughout the academic day. The summer care schedule and licensed staff integrate the needs of our students while providing an enriching, fun, and safe environment. This program will include opportunities to build communication, collaboration, regulation, and critical thinking skills. Theme-based programming will target language arts, math, science, physical education, functional living skills, and art. Over the course of that month, students will participate in weekly field trips to go swimming, also experience visits from Columbus Police and Fire Department, COSI, and many others. To tell us about the secondary enrichment opportunities available this summer, we'll now hear from the Director of Secondary Curriculum, Elise Clark.
Thank you. It is my distinct pleasure to present our secondary summer experiences. Our middle school focus is creating and collaborating. Working with our planning partner, the PASS Foundation, our curriculum team, and Columbus City Schools teachers, we are creating middle school design thinking enrichment experience, or as we like to call it, DTE squared. Students will design solutions to real-world problems with a focus on robotics, drone challenges, aviation, food science, medical, esports, and 3D modeling. This opportunity is inclusive of all students, included our gifted learners, our students with disabilities, and our English language learners, and will allow them to focus on the skills necessary to obtain success in high school and as they ultimately move toward career and college readiness. For high school, our focus is accelerating and advancing. Students in grades 10 through 12 will still have access to our virtual credit advancement program. As we move forward, we are looking for additional and alternative platforms that will allow us to expand these types of activities to students. For our 9th grade students, we have transformed the learning experience into a face-to-face course with a focus on blended learning. We believe this will allow students who have struggled to gain a stronger foundation in the 9th grade and should decrease the number of students who are off track for graduation. At the same time, this format will allow our 8th grade students to obtain high school credit in the summer prior to their 9th grade year. College Credit Plus summer options will also be available at various institutions for students who meet CCP qualifications. And Otterbein Summer Bridge will offer our CCS students an opportunity to earn credit in a supported cohort. Lastly, students will have an opportunity to learn in nature at our own Spruce Run Environmental Center, as they will provide programming for elementary, middle, and high school. In addition to the elementary programming, high school student options include a counselor in training program, where students can gain up to 88 service learning hours as they learn to work with our kindergarten students during their summer program. High school students may also opt to participate in Project Adventure, which will allow them to get 0.25 PE credit, or the Nature of Art, which will allow them to get 0.5 art credit. The middle school enrichment extensions at Spruce will be 2-week camps in which students can explore the physics of flight with the Ohio School of Falconry, and there is also an option for students to explore citizen science in which students will work with nature-based career professionals. And now, here is Peggy Cleary, who is leading the charge on career pathways.
Thank you, Elise. With graduation requirements rapidly changing to include the industry credentials, at Fort Hays, we will be offering a summer session where students can actually come and earn industry credentials in some of the most in-demand jobs in Central Ohio, including construction, allied health, business, IT, and public safety pathways. These credentials will not only prepare students for their future careers, but it will help them in getting into their college of choice. At this time, I would like to introduce Sandy Donald, the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning.
Dr. Dixon once posed the question to our team: how are we preparing students for the world of work? This question served as the springboard for much of the planning and programming shared with you this evening. In closing, I would like to summarize by highlighting a few key points. A primary goal moving forward is to ensure that social emotional learning competencies are embedded throughout our summer programming. Students from grades K through 8 will be afforded the opportunity to attend theme-based camps that are neither remedial or restrictive, as they were designed with all learners in mind. Rising ninth grade students will have the option to take accelerated coursework, which affords them the opportunity to earn high school credit throughout the summer. There will be multiple opportunities for students to exercise voice and choice, and a strong focus on 21st century skills of critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity, which provides students with the competencies to thrive in a world where change is constant, but learning never stops. I'll close with a quote from Franklin D. Roosevelt, which says, "We cannot always build a future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future." At this time, we will take any questions that you may have.
Questions? Board Member Reyes?
Thank you for your presentation. Summer school is my favorite. Personally speaking, summer school allowed me to pretty much get to where I needed to be. It was an opportunity for me to take classes that I normally couldn't take during the school years. I didn't grow up here, so I'm very excited of some of the changes that we're seeing. So I have a couple questions. I don't know if I missed it. Did we talk about when enrollment for summer school begins?
So we did not. Tonight, we were sort of giving you a preview of the academic portion of the program. We have absolutely started the planning. We actually had our first cross-departmental meeting last Thursday, where there were 34 district stakeholders working, brainstorming, and collaborating to ensure that we exceed expectations as it relates to summer school.
So you might tell me this, the same response. So I was wondering also about the criteria to qualify for summer school.
So when we said we designed summer school with all learners in mind, we did. There is no set criteria other than enrollment and showing up every day with an open mind and ready to work.
I knew the answer, but I wanted to ask. Criteria to be a part of the Spruce Run. You talked about the CIT. Will that be, you don't necessarily have to answer today, but I'm assuming it's going to be available on the website.
For the counselor in training?
For all those, you put about 3 or 4 different volunteer opportunities for our kids.
Yes, we
So
will be
CIT.
providing more explicit information because we will be transporting students there as well. So they will go to the area school, the elementary school that will be going to Spruce Run for the day. Our high school students will ride the bus there. In addition to that, prior to them taking the field trip, they will receive some training so that they can serve as a counselor in training. And they actually get to make a choice as to what area they would like to support based on interests. And so that's sort of, we have a double goal there because we're hoping that we can spur the thought of some future educators.
Right. So I have a couple questions in the section. I'll go really fast. So in the kindergarten experience, you talked about building strong homeschool connections and talked about family and community engagement. Can someone talk a little bit more about what those two mean? Not extensively, but just kind of some highlights.
Sure. So certainly we understand the importance of building that bridge between home and school. There is no better time to start when we are transitioning our youngest learners into our district. We certainly want to provide opportunities or different ways to empower parents to support learning at home. As far as Jump Start to Kindergarten goes, we will be bringing parents in so that they can, of course, meet the staff, but also learn about building policies and procedures, and then just ways that they could actually support their young person with learning at home.
Okay. And then in high school, you talked about, which I love that you're talking about design thinking, because I know it's a new innovative thought process. You talked about high school credits for the 9th graders. Is that available for all grades if someone is needing an additional credit or hours? Is that available option for the summer? Finally, I got a stumper.
So if you are a 10th through 12th grader, you'll still do VCAP, basically. That's still available to all of those students who are credit deficient. What we're doing is kind of changing the face of that credit recovery experience for our 9th graders. And then if you are an 8th grader, when you go into the application, you will see an option to either participate in the design thinking challenges in middle school, or if you'd like to get some of those 9th grade courses out of the way, it will allow you to do that. So all of those students, basically grades 8 through 11 and 12, will have an option to gain credit if they are deficient, or to accelerate if they have not already received that credit.
And at the same time, can you take, I'm going to date myself back. So when I was in school, we had a lot of different mathematical options. So Algebra 1, Algebra 2, you can take geometry, trigonometry, calculus, to kind of better prepare you for college. Are those options available in a summer school?
Yes, there are a variety of courses. The face-to-face will be the 9th grade courses because, again, we're working on changing what that looks like for our learners, and we'll be able to expand it as we go on. But even grades 10 through 12, you'll have those, it's multiple math courses, multiple English. So all of the courses in the core that we offer are available, not advanced placement at this time, but those courses in VCAP are available for those students.
And my last question, we talked about in the technical arena under public safety pathways. I was just wondering, have we entertained transportation? One of my minors is transportation and logistics from Ohio State University, and a lot of jobs available for ODOT, and obviously we have a transportation department, and I work in other. Have we considered or thought about that?
To President Adair, to Vice President Reyes. Actually, we can go back and see if we can secure one of the teachers for summers. Sometimes that's it, but we have beautiful labs, and it's not that we can't. We've looked at actual credentials that would add up to a pathway of 12 points, which is going to be imperative for the students to be able to get the credit for graduation. So if you have a 12-point, but I will absolutely take that back and see if I can ask one of the 3 automotive teachers if they'd be willing to put that kind of time in over the summer to meet the needs of the transportation.
This year, just wondering, it's something that I think as we look at school bus transportation and we're talking about driverless cars and we're talking about all these things,
Absolutely.
Transportation logistics expertise are necessary. Thank you.
So my question really relates to how we are collaborating with community partners that also provide summer programming. Specifically, have we paid or done due diligence in understanding that some of our parents are already in the process of getting their summer options together? Columbus Parks and Recs started their registration, or will start their registration on February 6th for some of their outdoor programs. They will also have registration on February 11th. The YMCA started on February 1st. What has happened in our district is we have been behind the 8 ball in letting families know if their students need to attend summer school, and now these new options for summer school. So what has been our due diligence students and ensuring that parents are adequately ready to get their summer options for their students.
Team, because we are way early. We are earlier than I think we have been, and from what I'm told, in years. And we've expanded this experience to, we're hoping 7,000 students is our reach. And this expanded experience, with one, it's not about remediation, it's about those expanded experiences with our students to have. So we're changing the conversation about what summer learning looks like. Two, we are having conversations with one partner organization. The reason we were not ready to go live tomorrow, because we're still waiting on a partner organization that we are looking for an afternoon opportunity so that parents don't have to worry about picking their students up midday. So we're working on that piece. So March 1st, you'll see all of the communication ads will go out. Thursday, during the fair, the elementary fair, we will have save the date cards that we're going to provide for the parents. So as Sandy has stated, there's a group of stakeholders who are having conversations so that we're able to meet the needs as much as possible with all our students and all our parents. And we're hoping that our parents will, even though they sign up at other places, to know that they can still come to us, if not the whole day, at least part day. So yes, we're not ready to go live tomorrow, but we're almost there. And next year will be even better so that we are out even earlier so that we're not competing, but we're giving parents a broader option for our students with their teachers in their school district that they're familiar with, and by regions. If you notice that we even have these by region, so students that are in certain regions now, they're not going across town to have this experience. They can have that experience in the region that they're familiar with now. So great question, but we're going to further expand that and have some earlier conversation next year. But there are multiple groups, and we could do, what we can provide for you is all the partner organizations that we are working with, and I can have that and give it to the board so you can see all the ones that we are currently working with now.
Excellent. So our community has asked a number of questions on Facebook as well. One of those questions being, what specific opportunities are available for our students with disabilities, whether learning or physical disabilities? So if someone could speak to that.
Yeah, she spoke to that first. If you come back up. Yep. She spoke to that already. Go ahead.
So, thank you. Summer care is for students with significant disabilities, and it's staffed to support that, support their needs so that they have an enriching opportunity as well. But in addition, every opportunity that Elise and Ann and Leslie shared is also going to be supported by special educators and assistants so that it's an inclusive model for all students to participate in.
Excellent. Will career camp still be offered?
Yes, the the Career Exploration Camp is always held the second week after, so it's the week before summer school at the Fort Hays Career Center, where students can come and get exploration of all careers that are offered in Columbus City Schools.
Excellent. And then my last question, while I understand we're thinking ahead and we're preparing our students for success and a growth mindset, again, one of our past issues related to summer school has been the determination of when students need to go for remediation. So again, noting that the sign-up and registration dates for Park and Rec have already started, YMCA has already started. How are we moving the ball forward to ensure that for our students that have to attend summer school, that are required to attend summer school, we're letting those family members know early and in advance so they can make their summer plans? What are we doing?
So one of the things that, back to your other question as to how we are doing outreach to families, I just wanted to add this, was that our team will be at the elementary fair next Thursday with those save the dates, and also letting parents know about, this Thursday. Week is getting away from me. This Thursday at the elementary fair. Our team is also scheduling regional parent meetings We'll be working on, as Dr. Dixon said, we have different topics that are offered across regions. So we will be hosting parent meetings across the regions. In addition to that, we have been working with our building administrators to identify and work with recruitment of students for our summer programming as well.
Add that, we want to make sure too, those students, I mean, it's still early, it's February 4th, right? So I hope students students still have an opportunity to work and pass their courses. And that's where the great work comes from our school counselors and our administrators to first push our students to make sure they can still be successful before the year is out. But if not, they do give them a notification using that last quarter to let them know that it's time. So we will make sure, and that their office will make sure that schools are notifying students and parents in a timely manner. Our early notification is for the camps, right? So for the enrichment piece, students that have not yet earned their credits, we hope that they still are working diligently and parents are still supporting them. But those parents that want their students in a enrichment opportunity, please, there's an opportunity to sign up on Thursday. We will have a full communications campaign ready on March 1st, if I'm answering your question. But those are the things we want. We know that there may be some opportunities for some students that may not know and that parents may not know, but that's up to the schools to let their parents, those students and the parents know if they need the remedial classes in summer school.
So let me just clarify the question. In this district, a number of caregivers, parents, grandparents receive late notification that their students have to attend summer school.
Right.
So just like we're preparing a save the date early notification for our expiration opportunities, what early notification, be on the lookout, red flag, are we giving our families whose students may have to attend summer school due to remediation?
Right, I thought I answered it, so let me clarify. So right now, students are still working toward passing their courses. And usually at the last quarter, students who are not yet passing would receive some notification unless they know that they haven't passed prior to that. But I think there's no set date. As a former principal, our teachers are working with our students and our families and giving them every effort to be successful in a class. However, those students, for whatever reasons, if they know that they haven't passed and they know they have to retake courses, they do know that in a more timely fashion. But I don't want us to, I want us to be very careful that we don't set a date that a final date if we are working with students and notifying. So we can work on that. We could talk to you offline about that, but at this point, there's no certain date that we have to provide notifications to our parents and our students.
So I don't want to belabor the point, but I just want to know that it's not a date, it's what MAP score should we be looking at?
So we can provide that.
Yes.
We can talk about that offline and then provide that, yeah.
Gurley? I wanted to just go back and make sure that it's clear because we have talked about partner programs and different kinds of camps. And so parents out there who are familiar with how camp registration works, is there a cost? Is there a size cap? What are the hours?
So right now, we're currently, it would be a no-cost summer school experience for our students. And so we are happy to provide that and as we get those additional details. But right now, we're looking at a no-cost opportunity for all the CCS students only.
And that means that they are currently enrolled, current students, rising students within our district?
Correct.
Okay, Board Member Beckerly?
Just occurred to me, if there's just a thing to think about, if we don't fill all the slots, maybe we should have a price for people from out of the district. Just a thought.
Okay.
No more to say.
No one wants to answer that. Okay. With the CITs, you mentioned training for them. I'm wondering if we've thought about partnering with Columbus Rec and Park because they train CITs for all of their programming. I don't know if that was something we've thought about.
For the counselors in training, they will be trained on specific modules that our first grade students will be involved in. So it's curriculum that was designed by Columbus City School teachers.
Right, I guess okay. I was thinking like they were out at Spruce Run and they might need first aid or first CP. I don't know like what we're gonna have them do, but in addition to our curriculum, just being a counselor and how to talk to a little one, that kind of thing.
Yes, gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I want to say I'm super excited about this because I am a parent. Unfortunately, like Dr. Pierce said, though, I'm already building my schedule, Dr. Dixon. And so it is scary for me that we don't have it out. And so I think that's why she's pushing, because it is hard. This is the most stressful time of the year for parents. And so as soon as we can get this stuff out, in any way that we can get it out, even if it's the save the dates,
The elementary fair, all the save the date cards will go out.
and do social media and get it out to, schools to send home in book bags would be really helpful. And to really explain what the application process is and how to do that, where to find it. But I'm really excited about just the time, and I can tell all of you came up here and you are excited. And the time and care you have put in to really redesigning what a summer experience looks like here. And I know that this is only going to grow and get better, and that's the thing I am most excited about. So thank you to your whole team, and I want to encourage all of our CCS families to save the date. I will try really hard too, to make sure our kiddos can get in. And to answer Dr. Ocasio's question, I think if I were a kiddo, I think it would be fun to attend the COSI experience because it looked like there was some fun, slimy stuff maybe happening there and fun learning science. So that's what I would want to do. Board Member Reyes?
So I just wanted to reiterate the dates that summer school's available as our parents are planning. Even though we have not launched it, one thing to consider is that we just heard that there's going to be a lot of slots for our kids, our district kids. So mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, caregiver, June 15th to July 24th, as you're looking at camps, know that Columbus City Schools has got you. And we got some great things coming. So as you look, even though we may not have the app out there so that you can start signing up, what you do know is that there's a camp out there. And, we also know as the district, as earlier acknowledged by one of our speakers, we do have some parents that cannot afford camps. And even though they could afford camps, they cannot afford transportation. So there's a lot of things that we offer as you are looking at registration and all those things. Know that we got you June 15 to July 24th.
Leave the podium. I would like to thank our superintendent and her cabinet for working so diligently to remove barriers so that families do have those opportunities for extended day transportation and a multitude of rich learning experiences. So thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Again, that concludes my report tonight.
Thank you. Were there any other questions for the superintendent on her report? Okay, thank you. We will now move to the internal auditor.
Report this evening for you. So that's my report.
Being here. And Mr. Treasurer, do you have a report this evening?
No. Just an announcement. FAC will meet next week, a week from tomorrow, on the 12th, 4 o'clock right here. We have an inordinately exciting agenda scheduled. I'm kidding. It's the same agenda we always have, the financial reports. Board Member Ragland was kind of scowling at me about it being entertaining and exciting. But 4 o'clock on the 12th, right here, Finance and Appropriations Committee, with Board Member Brown and Chair Cole and Board Member Ragland.
Thank you so much. We will now move into the Board Matters agenda. Item 8.1, which is to consider the resolution to approve the real property tax exemption in connection with the proposed Andelin Biosciences project and approving certain related matters. I'm going to ask the representatives from Andelin Bioscience and Nationwide Children's Hospital to come up to the podium. I want to remind everyone that they were actually here during our last meeting and gave a presentation where board members asked questions. We, I believe, have more questions for you. We gave you questions in writing that we received feedback from, so I hope board members also reviewed those. You also heard comments today, so I'll give you an opportunity if you would like to address any of that or respond. I guess we'll start with board member comments. Is that okay, Stan? Or do you want to talk? Do you want to talk first?
Well, that's a scary thought to let me talk first. Just as a matter of protocol, you're going to have a discussion on an item. It's not really yet on the table until you have a motion and a second, and then you have discussion. If you just, that's just a matter of protocol, but you can do whatever you want.
I will move that we approve the resolution that's been presented to us.
Okay, so there's a motion by Board Member Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. So now we will have discussion.
The only comment I would say is this: we've gotten to this point after months of conversations with staff, with legal counsel to prepare the documents and whatnot, and it. I think the question of abatements obviously is a very complicated subject with many nuances. Probably the only thing that I would introduce this topic tonight with is what the board's role is in terms of abatement approval, and so that there's just clarity on what your role is. Under statute, various statutes, there are several that allow for economic incentives to be granted to developers, companies, corporations. And the actual granting of an abatement, of an incentive, is done by, I believe, the city. I know the city, but I believe also the county can do it as well. But most notably, we typically hear from the city of Columbus. And that's the political body that actually has the authority to grant an abatement. And under statute, there are certain provisions in which they may operate. In other words, the one that we most usually talk to you about is that they can approve an abatement, they being the city, can approve an abatement of 50% of the taxes, the property taxes, for a period of 15 years. Or they can approve a 75% abatement for 10. If you do the math, it's the same in terms of the dollars that are involved in that abatement. And they can do that without seeking the approval or acceptance from the local Board of Education. So they are the ones that grant it in this particular case, and in several that you've seen prior to this. There's been a desire to have, I call it an enhanced abatement above the statutory allowances without Board of Education action. So those are the ones that we see, and they have typically been 100 for 15, although you have seen some, notably out in the Hamilton corridor. That was several years ago. That was 100 for 10. So if you ask for an abatement beyond the percentage or beyond the number of years, then it requires our approval. So you're agreeing to this application, really? And if you would approve this resolution, you're agreeing to this proposal to go forward to City Council? It is actually up to City Council then to further grant the abatement. Certainly if you did not agree or approve of this request going forward, it wouldn't go to City Council, but then City Council and the developers have the opportunity to come back and redo their proposals and maybe do it within the statutory limits. And we, that being Dr. Eric Roush and I, who have typically kind of been at the forefront of this for the point people for the district, we've seen that happen in the past, where not that they've come for 100, but we've seen other abatements go through within the statutory limit. So I just want you to be clear what your role here is. Even if you approve this, the City Council then still has to vote this project up or down. And they're the ones who actually grant it. So I'll just leave that as opening remarks. There are a lot of nuances on it, and I know many of you have talked with me not only at this time, but on prior proposals, and it's been a very in-depth conversation that I'm sure you may want to go further with at some point in time.
Thank you for that. Board members, do you have any questions or comments to what our treasurer has said and/or to Children's Hospital? Board Member Brown?
Sure. First of all, I want to thank our treasurer for the explanation. And it hasn't been entirely clear, especially to the public, that it's not the school board that grants abatements or other tax incentives. It's the city for the most part. And that for certain of those, it requires our consent. So so thank you for clarifying that. Secondly, I just want to say, and I guess early, even before any of the rest, I have been through the presentation at least 4 times. I have read all of the documents pretty thoroughly and had all my questions answered. I can't think of an example of an abatement request that we've had as much opportunity for feedback, for response to questions, for open conversation as we have with this particular one, in a way that is impressive. And we've had just a real lot of good information, and that's in part, I know, because the partnership between Nationwide Children's Hospital and Columbus City Schools has been good, and it's been around for a while, and there's a high level of trust, and the candor in this has just been great. So I appreciate all of that. I also, having studied that, having had questions answered, having seen the presentation many times, and understanding that our role as a school board is to make sure that we do what's in the best interest of our students and their families. I am absolutely confident that this arrangement provides the best option that we, that will support our students, support families, support the community, which is also good for us, and that I have no reservations about the dollars, as some members of the public have addressed, not being there. They're dollars that we would have never seen otherwise. It's not taking anything away, but it's actually adding dollars to what we're getting, as well as providing very valuable other resources for our kids and for the benefit of the school district. So, I am, very confident of that. I'm very supportive of going forward with this.
Thank you, Board Member Brown. Board Member Beckerly.
Hi. What Eric said is true, that this has been a very productive and open communication for which we're grateful. Would you mind going over again for us sort of the origin story of Andelin and how it evolved that Children's Hospital had to choose this particular corporate structure to be the vehicle for pursuing this?
Absolutely. So Nationwide Children's Hospital is a not-for-profit hospital, and what that means is we do make a margin, but we reinvest that margin into services that we provide. And because of the discoveries that occurred within our research institute, we wanted to be able to bring this to life for other new discoveries that are happening all around the world. If we could set it up as a nonprofit, we absolutely would. However, IRS regulations and law require us to set this up as a for-profit. And that is because we are doing manufacturing or not doing healthcare services. Does that help?
Yes. And I guess the other piece of that that I think would be helpful for the public to understand is what exactly is the mission of Andelin, or what is it accomplishing in terms of the overall lay of the land of gene therapy? Because I think there's a misunderstanding of the mission.
Yes. So the mission is to produce the viral vector that creates gene therapy treatments for a multitude of diseases that exist today. We do intend to set this corporation as an affiliate of Nationwide Children's Hospital. So all Nationwide Children's revenues that are created through Andelin, or all Andelin revenues that are created, will be reinvested back into Nationwide Children's non-for-profit mission. The idea is that we continue to reinvest it in research to create really great science that created the treatment that exists today for SMA and for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. There's a second component to that that is really important for people to understand. Nationwide Children's is committed to creating treatments for many orphan diseases as well. And some of these diseases treat less than 200 people annually. If Children's doesn't do this, big pharmaceutical companies will not. It doesn't make enough profit for them to invest this amount of money into a cure for doses less than 200 a year. So I think it's really important for orphan diseases and for the better health of children that we invest in this.
Board Member Ragland.
Certainly, I'd like to echo the comments of Board Member Brown and Board Member Beckerly. Thank you. This has been almost a year in the making. I believe when I first got my briefing on this, we had some very tough questions, particularly around minority participation and jobs for Columbus residents. And I do thank you, Ms. Wong, for your due diligence and coming back to me and being open to those questions, coming back to me with tangible results, some goals that have been set through Nationwide Children's and Andelin for minority participation as well as jobs for residents of this city. The one question I do have was sparked by the comment made by Mrs. Camboni earlier today around the cost of the medication itself. And she mentioned that for her child, I believe that the medication, I may be getting this wrong, was upwards of a couple of $1 million. And I guess that was something that I had not thought about, but I think it's a viable conversation to have because of the rising costs of medications that all of us, I'm sure, are facing and dealing with. The one question I do have, how would the poorest student in this district who needs this life-changing medication afford it?
So Nationwide Children's Hospital, as you know, is committed to serving all children regardless of their ability to pay. It is our job to do that, and we will continue to do that for the community. We will also continue to advocate for fair drug pricing and pharmaceutical pricing because it's important for our community as well. I want to reiterate that Andelin Biosciences is not a pharmaceutical company. It is a manufacturing company creating the viral vector that includes the gene therapy to be sold to biotech and/or pharmaceutical companies that will then deliver that to healthcare systems to deliver the treatment.
Thank you again for your cooperation with me. I know I'm hard to deal with at times, but I do appreciate your patience and your due diligence in this process. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Board Member Pierce.
So we had 3 community members that spoke regarding this tax abatement. And so my specific question is, can you please speak to the community support you've garnered or challenges you responded to via this tax abatement request, specifically CEA, OPSI, area commissions, and neighborhood civics?
Absolutely. So we have talked, as Mr. Aaron shared, that we did get to talk with him and with several neighborhood associations. We have had great conversations with your President, John, President of the Union, John. And during those conversations, I think people were in awe of the partnership that we have developed. You know, we provide $3.2 million annually in partnership in healthcare and STEM programming and career development programming. So we're very excited about that, and people are really excited about that. We also learned that people are very interested in the Andelin Biosciences company, that they see that as a great company, great thing for children's to do. What we also learned is that abatements are not everyone agrees with that policy. And we are asking for the abatement in order to support the development. It is critical to have this abatement to support the development of the facility for Andelin Biosciences. And sometimes we had to agree to disagree on abatement policy.
Thank you.
Board Member Beckerly.
Just for clarification, has Andelin made any of this gene therapy available to the public at this point? Is it for sale?
So Nationwide Children's Research Institute did the phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials for the 2 treatments that are available on the market today. We have not produced anything commercially, and it is not our product that is out there. We did the research to develop the product.
There is a product out there.
For SMA and for Duchenne muscular dystrophy.
Are they using the gene delivery, the therapy delivery system?
They are, the viral vector delivery system, yes.
Okay, so it's licensed to them?
It's licensed to them, correct.
Okay.
Board Member Reyes.
Thank you. Maybe this is a treasurer question, I'm not sure. So when we see abatements, when we've seen abatements, in most cases, the abatement is specifically for property taxes. Are most abatements not considering city tax, county tax, some of these other taxes? When they're being asked, is that the way that the law is kind of written? I just feel that's a lot of time. I think that's why you get the pushback. It almost seems that when there's an abatement consideration, they're only considering property taxes. So city taxes still come out, county taxes still come out, some of these other taxes, income tax. So I think that's where we get into some of the heartburn.
That is a treasurer question. There was a time when the abatements were being granted and school districts weren't involved.
Correct.
And you hear us often referred to pre-1994 CRAs. So if you're in a pre-1994 CRA area here in Central Ohio, they don't need to talk to us. And so what we sometimes see is areas that are in a pre-94 compete with those that aren't. And those that aren't are the 75, 10, 50 for 15. And so those properties don't compete equally, which is why often you'll see the abatement request come in to say, well, if a developer can go here or go here, if we want them over here, you have to incent them to come over there. Interestingly enough, as you may know, somewhere 60 to 65% of your property tax bill is school taxes. And so, as I understand, when the legislation changed, it involved us as part of that. You struggled for a word, and Board Member Brown used the right word that I really like is your consent. So it comes to us as consent, but when you abate property taxes, all the entities that are involved in collecting property taxes, they are abated. We are the ones that are at the table. And that's simply because we have the big bite on property taxes. There are other provisions in the law about income tax sharing after a certain payroll amount, $1 million. There's a $1 million in payroll tax trigger where the city then shares 50% from $1 with us. So there are other forms of remuneration to us somewhat in return or as a part of consenting to the property tax abatement. And then, you have to talk to the City Economic Development Department, but there are other incentives that they provide as well, but it's relative to city income tax and perhaps others. So, but when it comes to property taxes, we are the lion's share of that. We're the ones that have been in the law that are in part of that consent process. Does that help?
Yes. A bit, Sam?
Sure.
So I do want to reiterate, because of the property tax abatement, it does mean that you're sharing in the city income tax that comes back to Columbus City Schools. So it is a new revenue source that doesn't exist today. That is worth $3.5 million. So, I think that's the nuance that he talked about in the remuneration from the city.
Understand, too, that this property is currently tax exempt because it's owned by the Ohio State University, a governmental entity. So it's on the tax exempt duplicate. When they commercialize it, then that property comes on the taxable duplicate. The land portion, and we ran a number for that. We're estimating how that will be valued. And I don't remember the numbers in my head exactly, but there will be property taxes on the land portion that we will receive. That you don't abate the land portion. It's the only value that gets abated are the improvements to a particular parcel. You think that's about the right number?
Yes.
Libby?
Stan has educated me a lot.
This is a question, I think, more for Mary Kay in terms of, we have had an ongoing, very strong relationship with Children's. And as part of this whole process and this project, you're committing to an additional $330,000 worth of full-time equivalent behavior, health, and/or nursing. Is that accurate? Yeah.
Annually.
Now, just suggest for the sake of discussion, if we were to come up with some great new, which we're going to try to do, partnership that we could engage in above and beyond that, I'm assuming that Children's is open to expanding the partnership in other ways, and that this is not any sort of cap on what our partnership overall will look like.
That's accurate. So we have had a longstanding partnership with Columbus City Schools dating back so long, I'm not even sure. In 2015 is when we really added and made the comprehensive services that we call Care Connection. So that's that comprehensive healthcare services that we provide in the district. And, I like to think of it as your students are patients. This is an ongoing commitment. And when we doubled down, so to speak, in 2015 and really enhanced the work that we do in the schools, from the clinics to the mentoring to the asthma therapy program that's in every single one of your buildings, every year since that, our partnership has expanded. And so we are in active conversation on a regular basis with your staff to find out, are the services that we're providing meeting the needs? If not, how do we retool and how do we think about that collectively? So certainly our intention is to continue this partnership and to continue to expand and meet the needs of the children that we care so deeply about.
Can you, Andelin is a privately held company, right? Who is the shareholder?
There are no individual shareholders. Nationwide Children's is the company that's starting it.
You said that any profit that the Andelin would make would go back to the shareholder and be reinvested in the mission of Children's.
Absolutely, yes.
And you heard the explanation by the treasurer about the different levels at which a developer could work through abatements. Why didn't you seek one that was lower, where you wouldn't even need to trigger our consent?
Our thought was this was really a win-win. It creates new revenue for the schools, but it also allows us to start construction, and we have approximately 4 to 5 years where we will have very limited income and over $30 million in payroll. So again, bringing new jobs, working with Columbus City Schools to bring new services and create this tax revenue for the long term is exactly what we want to do. So we needed to solicit the full 100% 15-year tax abatement in order to support that startup.
Any final questions? Board Member Beckerly?
Given that Nationwide Children's is the sole shareholder, I mean, if I stop and think about what about this would be of concern. Clearly, the mission of Andelin is not of concern. Clearly, we're already solid partners with the hopes of expanding and in all sorts of different ways with any luck. What will the guardrails be to prevent, or how does we make sure that this this venture does not morph into something that would be all of our nightmares about, exorbitant insulin prices and that sort of thing? What are the assurances, or how will that work?
Nationwide Children's is working on developing a board of directors. That board of directors will have corporate bylaws and documents in place that will assure the reinvestment in Nationwide Children's Hospital. In addition, we will have board members from Nationwide Children's Hospital on that company's board, on Andelin's board. So we're reinsuring that in both ways. You have seen the mission. I think we presented that at the committee meeting or the board meeting 2 weeks ago, and that is exactly what we want to do. We need to reinvest in the children for the best outcomes of children.
No? Yes? Board Member Brown?
Yeah, I do have one, and Carol's question prompted it. And that is, what concerns do we have? And I think that the number one concern from my perspective is public misunderstanding about this transaction and about its financial impact on us, as well as all of the benefits that come. And that public misunderstanding plays out in lots of ways, including people who want to come talk with us, raising good points, good questions. But it also plays out in our ability in the future to pass a tax issue when we need that for the benefit of the schools. So my question is, and I don't know that it's been explored at all, but to what extent do you think that you can be helpful to us as we're explaining all of this to the public, either now as this is at issue, or later when we have to seek new money and we know that it will come up again?
Absolutely. So I think the way we can be helpful is the partnership that we continue and the conversations that we've continued to have refined our ability to speak to this. And I think it's been a really valuable conversation. That valuable conversation will absolutely continue. We don't just walk out the door and say goodbye. We definitely want to be here as your partner. And so whatever it takes to make this clear, we will continue to meet with our community and our neighborhoods and make sure that we're explaining this as best we can, and then always open to suggestions if something that you run across is really unclear. I'm more than happy to support that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Treasurer, ready to call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
That motion carried.
I just want to say to the public that we really take these to heart. And there's been several times in these conversations where, we've said this sometimes feels like we can't win. And when we have really great partners, it even feels worse sometimes. And just know that we hear you when you come and talk to us and you talk to us about Resource for Our Kids. We do not take that lightly. And we are here fighting every day for the resources that we need for our children. When we have to work with our partners down the street who get this next, by the way, around February 24th, I believe, is when it is scheduled. We have to work with them because, as our treasurer said, sometimes we don't get a voice in the process. And so it's kind of, do we not get the voice, or do we exercise our voice and then try to get the best that we can for our children? And in this case, it feels like, as you saw by the vote today, we think we're going to get something better for our children and all of the children in our community. And so I just need you to hear me, because I hear you and we hear you. And we all have to work better through this abatement process together, and have more understanding and more discussion. Board Member Ragland, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, for that comment. And I do believe that for our children and for our students specifically, this is a civics lesson, quite frankly, in how cities are run, how corporations impact the livelihood of students and cities in general. And one of the things that really needs to be discussed with this specifically, Mr. Behort mentioned this process goes another step forward to City Council directly, but following whatever City Council does, if they are successful there are also steps that City Council will take to review the validity of the proposal that Nationwide Children's has put forward. And when we talk about abatements in general, everybody gets the press events when there's protests and all sorts of, people are lining up and marching and screaming and yelling. But when the council reviews these types of proposals, there's 3 people in council chambers. And that is a civics lesson as well, in knowing when you need to fight, what's appropriate in fighting, and where you need to influence with your voice. So people will get to hear that Nationwide Children's has kept their promise in this proposal, and that is what we should be teaching our children about. This is an entire process that they need to know, because it impacts them in every single way. And our graduates, our portrait of a graduate, as we're discussing, our graduates need to know this process backwards and forwards when they graduate, because it is local government at its finest. And they will be more equipped to go out into the public and do the things that we want them to do if they are prepared in knowing and understanding this process as we've gone through it this year. Thank you, Madam President.
Board Member Beckerly, did you want to add something? Sure. Well,
I can. You want me to go ahead and?
I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll do it now, I guess. We were going to do it in the announcements, but because this is something that is really challenging for us, we are going to create an internal ad hoc committee that will report through the FAC committee. Board Member Beckerly will be leading that effort, because we want to get this right, and it's really important. Board Member Beckerly, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I just want to kind of say 2 things. One, I think that we believe that this particular abatement with Children's Hospital is exceptional for a few reasons. One is that they have been an exceptional partner with us throughout the years, and the other is that it's an exceptional mission. And so setting aside that this is a unique abatement, a unique situation, overall, we're committed to look at this whole process and try to come up with a comprehensive way to approach these abatements, because they keep coming. And part of our concern, in addition to wanting to be fair and analyze them from a position of understanding of all the nuances, is we also need to be mindful that they are taking up too much of our time. Our mission is to figure out how to best educate our children. And so part of what the committee is going to do is try to figure out a way or a framework or a strategy to figure out how to address these in a way that's reasonable and sensible, and also will somewhat alleviate, if not completely alleviate, the amount of time that we spend on this, because this is not advancing our primary mission.
Thank you. Thank you, Children's Hospital, for being here. Okay, we are going to move into the consent area of our agenda. Reminder to board members, if you would like any of the items removed, you may do that. You may ask for that to be removed. Is there anything that wants to be removed? All right. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second? Please. You have to abstain. Okay. You please call the roll.
All set?
What? Okay, sorry. There's a discussion.
Thank you. So I'm coming before the board with a sense of frustration concerning how we receive information. I have asked consistently to have the location of businesses that are included on our agenda summary, included on the legislative summary that we get that is before us today. Now, for me, a part of what we get in summary form that allows us to have information about what we are voting on in consent includes the names of businesses, the fiscal impact on the district, as well as the percentage of LEDE participation on each piece of legislation that we pass. I have asked consistently in private for a very long time to get the names and the locations of the businesses included in our legislative summary. And I am frustrated that this simple act has not been accomplished. I want to explain my thinking as to why I'm asking for this, because this is an issue that we are directly addressing right now. We did not meet our LEDE goals for the 2018-2019 year. A part of my frustration is that a lot of our LEDE businesses are not necessarily as local as I would like them to be. And so in understanding who the businesses are that we are working with and where they are coming from, will help us really narrow down how we are spending the public's tax dollars. We've got a $1.5 billion budget, a narrow local focus, i.e. Columbus will benefit our children and their families a lot more than a local focus that might have us spending money in businesses in Powell or Dublin, where those income tax dollars are going back to Olentangy to pay property taxes to Olentangy schools that are in far better shape than ours. or into Dublin, where those income taxes are then paying property taxes in a school district that's far better than ours. I've stood on my head because my goal, and hopefully it is our goal as a board, is to see the spending that we are doing dovetail into helping us eliminate the poverty that our students are coming into our buildings with. I've made a very simple request to the administration for several months, because I'd like to see where we are spending our business, our finances. And I am hopeful that by making this request on the board floor publicly, that I can now get some traction on including the location of our businesses in our summaries. Thank you, Madam President.
Member Ragland, I was unaware of that request, so you were working with staff. Superintendent, I'm sorry, you were trying to tell me who to call on. Dr. Stanford.
Mr. Ragland, thank you for the opportunity to discuss this, your request. Yes, you have made that request, and in talking to our team members, wanted to get more clarity from you, because when we talk about the location of a company that may be trying to do business with us, the company may have different addresses that they are using for their business location. And as you know from our policy itself, all of the businesses that qualify for the LEDE program are either located in Franklin County or a contiguous county to Franklin County. And so the clarification in terms of the address that you are seeking, is it the address that they have registered here in Franklin County, or is it the address that is their headquarters?
Thank you, Dr. Stanford. I would like the address that's on the application. So if it's Franklin County, and I'm not saying just for those that have an LEDE qualification either. I'm saying every piece of legislation. If we are doing business with a company, Train Incorporated, doing business out of Columbus, Ohio, if that's the address on the application, then that is the application address that should be on the legislative summary. I know they've got several businesses, but what I'm saying, and you've made a very good point. Yes, we have some businesses that are local, but they're in contiguous counties. And so if I'm doing the majority of our business with businesses in Delaware County, where the schools are immaculate and the parents are well paid and the homes are immaculate and palatial, then why aren't we finding a way to do more businesses with those folks that are local here and hiring our families, so that they don't have to get displaced out of communities that are being gentrified? They can grow with those communities because they have a job that enables them to have a stable family. For me, if we need to do some redefining of contiguous counties to make our LEDE participation more viable to the students that we serve, then that's a discussion that we need to have as a policy. And one of the ways that we can start understanding who we are doing business with is if we get the information. So if they're applying for a bid and it's, Train, and their application address is Columbus, Ohio, then that's good enough for me right here. If it's anywhere else, that's good enough for me. All I'm asking for is for it to be included on the summary so that we know. So I'm a bit perplexed as to why that is a difficult thing to include after having asked for it for such a long time.
At this point, we've re-asked, okay, we've talked, we've clarified. I want to throw it over here to Board Member Brown because maybe he has something to say about the policy because you brought that up. So, Board Member Brown?
A couple of things. First, I don't disagree that we should have that information. I agree fully that we should have the information. Where we have it is a little bit different. I know we have been increasing modestly our use of board docs, and I think that we have an opportunity to increase our use of board docs significantly, and there's a lot that it can accomplish for us. I'd like to see us do away entirely with the legislative summaries. I don't think we need it. It's basically giving me the same information in two places. Board docs will suffice. I'd like to see all of that, not duplicated, but placed in board docs, including the information specifically that James is asking for. And that we should work toward that. I don't think it's going to happen overnight. But we should work toward that as well as other enhancements that we can have using that electronically. With respect to the policy, I think it does make sense for us to take a good hard look at the LEDE policy and generally at procurement and generally at contracting. And it's a broad area, but we're a very big customer for a lot of things. And I think that looking at that in both a realistic way and in a way that approaches it for the benefit of our students and their families and the community, that we can revisit that. And I've got some ideas. There's some things that have been, worked on in the past in bits and pieces, but I think we can bring that together.
Great. Board Member Reyes?
So I'm glad you brought that up, Board Member Brown. Actually, our NSDP, where a lot of this legislation that Board Member Ragland is talking about, we used board docs this last meeting. So all the information, the bidders, why they were, the innovative programming that they included. So I just want to make sure that as we look at LEDE, we actually had a subcommittee a couple years back to talk about how do you break up projects so that we can ensure minority businesses, local businesses, because to your point, we are a very big organization. There are certain organizations or companies that can do the work that we're asking them to. We talked to Dr. Dixon and to the team about bringing some of those innovative things that they're doing at NSDP as to why Train was selected, what they're bringing that's different than anybody else, how they're saving us, what that saving is going, what does that look like. So we've talked to Dr. Dixon about possibly bringing that as one of the operations discussions, so that not only will you see it in paper form, Board Member Ragland, but you'll see it as an actual walking you through. Not everybody has the opportunity to go to every meeting, every community meeting or board meeting. So it was very exciting to see that the work that our staff is doing, and it'd be great for us to be able to share it with other board members. Because again, this information, I know I've heard it a lot, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but this information is to help the board make the decisions for the district. So if the board needs it, we're trying our best to make sure that, at least for us, we asked a lot of questions it was our first NSDP meeting, and we're like, oh my gosh, this needs to be shared with the rest of the board members, because if we were excited, and I think not only do we need to know, but everybody needs to know about the great work that our partners, our staff
Alex's group, NSDP, all the NSDP who are community members are doing, so.
Thank you. I think I'd like to add to that, and we've been talking about the new format of our board meetings. And remember, we said that one meeting would be focused on the curriculum, and then the next meeting would be focused on operations. The next meeting is actually a presentation on LEDE, the process, our policy, our current, the data, all of that will be presented at the next meeting, along with the summer work, Operation Fix It. So we're trying to bring two big items at that meeting and on the 21st. So that will come. And to your other point, we want to get better and we want to make sure the board has all the information they need to make decisions. So we did not do what we should have done. Moving forward, we will make sure that you have the information you needed in the place that it should be.
And to your comment, Dr. Dixon, I think Jennifer, Board Member Dare, President Dare, sent out a note. The intent of all that she's talking about is to build a calendar for all of our meetings. And Jennifer had asked all board members to look at a list that Dr. Dixon had already created. If there's something that you want to pull out or something that is important to the board to hear as we're making decisions, she's attempting to be strategic because there are certain things that we have to look at before particular dates and times so that we know what's coming up. So she's creating a calendar so that you know, second meeting of X date, recovering transportation. So if you're sitting here going, oh my God, I have a pressing issue about transportation, you know that that's coming up. And if it's not coming up, a great suggestion would be, these are my concerns about transportation as the administration is building their report. Could you please include to answer these 4 or 5 questions? So we're trying to move to a way that we are getting the information that we're asking for. So the calendar is ours, but the Dr. Dixon will be driving it, but the calendar and the information is what we want to hear about. So I think to President Adair's note that she sent a couple days ago, asking all board members to provide some feedback, I think would be helpful in some of these situations.
Thank you, board members. I think that what this demonstrates is, one, we are not afraid to talk about things, right? And we need to make sure we have all the information. And two, really, we are governed by this principle of equity, and that's what really Board Member Ragland's point was, to ensure that everything we do, no matter if it's on the operation side or the academic side, focuses on the ability to ensure our children have exactly what they need, and that includes supporting families and our families. So thank you for that. I think we have a good game plan, and please, yes, thank you, Vice President Reyes, for reminding me to remind everyone to check out the list and make sure you get your topic on the list so that we can ensure that we are discussing these items. Okay, good, all right. So what I like to do, because we do have the 22 adult diplomas. It's a part of the consent still. It's okay. I like to read the names because, like I said, these were well-earned, so I want to highlight them. So congratulations to Roberta Patrice Arnold, Amanda Colleen Blackburn, Giovanni Anton Gonzalez, Richard Allen Payne, Christy Sims, and Antoinette Marie Wright for earning the 22+ adult diploma. Congratulations. Okay, any other comments, discussion about any consent item? Okay, hearing none.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you. Next, we have announcements. So item 24.1, we have an announcement about Relationship Week 2020.
President Reyes and to the board. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be able to stand up here. As a part of our district, we have been working diligently on Relationship Week. It is a cross-department opportunity. A shout out to our student ambassadors. Our student ambassadors, if you can see the flyer that we have promoted this at our building levels and at our department levels, but our student ambassadors actually worked on the last or the next to last one around celebrating diversity. So we worked with them, and they provided us some pretty candid feedback about how we need to be celebrating. And so a couple of highlights for this week. We want to make sure that you all recognize and know that the Relationship Week aligns with our academics, our restorative practices, and our trauma-informed practices, as well as our social-emotional learning. And so as we look at Relationship Week, we want to highlight communities, healthy relationships. We're going to start with hello. We're going to take a look at one act of kindness, and I encourage you, we're actually working with our community partners. This notion of forgiveness and learning and teaching our young people that sometimes things happen and harm happens, and we have to learn how to forgive. And we have to actually also say, I'm sorry. This notion of no one eats alone, taking responsibility. How many times are we in our respective areas and we don't really talk to the people or our colleagues? And just taking the time to actually get to know people and to have conversations. And then certainly being able to celebrate diversity and making sure that we are encouraging and representing the humanity of what this district is and how we accomplish it and how we live it every day. So thank you for the opportunity for us to be able to give a couple of shout outs for Relationship Week, and very excited for the district, and particularly to our superintendent, who is always encouraging and making sure that we think brighter, innovative, and making sure that everyone has an opportunity to feel included. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your work, because this stuff is really important. This is what builds the foundation of our culture and climate change. These simple little things are the beginning. So really thank you, and the student ambassadors and everyone who worked on this. So I encourage everyone on the board, next week, say hello, be kind, forgive, celebrate diversity, and find a friend to eat with. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, so you might have noticed that we cut down a lot on our resolutions at the beginning of the meeting, and it's not because we don't value things, we do, but we want to make sure that when we give a resolution, it has the full weight, and we know it's super, super important. But so there are some things we do want to make sure people know about, because they are really important. Do I have slides or anything, or I'm just talking? I'm just talking, cool. So it is also National Financial Aid Awareness Month, and that's really important for our students. So keep that in mind. We want to make sure that all of our students are aware that there are a lot of financial aid opportunities for them and their families to participate, to ensure that they have the funds that they need to extend their post-secondary education. It is also Ohio Teen Dating Violence Month, and that is obviously something that's important. We celebrate our counselors this week, and this is something they work on at school. And this is really important to talk to your kids about what that means on both sides of that kind of question about being a victim or maybe accidentally sometimes being the perpetrator, and understanding what that means. So it's really important we have those discussions. Even though it can be hard, we know that this has ramifications on our students. The other thing I want to announce tonight is that we are seating the Millage Committee. The Millage Committee is the committee that we as a board put forth to assist us in determining what type and how much a levy we will ask the voters for. And so we will be seating that committee. Right now, we have named 2 co-chairs. We still have a little tentative. Okay, so I don't want to say it publicly. No, I'm good. We're good. Okay, he's here. So we have, one of our co-chairs is here tonight, Mr. Philip Calloway. So thank you so much for serving in this capacity. And we have Jordan Miller, who is also going to be serving. We have a great list of 22 individuals, from parents to community members, and this list is long. We will publish it because I also do not want to accidentally mispronounce anyone's name. So I need pronunciations. I don't like to make sure I don't want to say people's names. But Mr. Smito is also going to be on that committee, so thank you. You are here this evening, but we have a lot of great people and we have a lot of great work to do. No, you didn't let me finish, Dan. I literally was going to say that. Hold on a second. And we have Stan, our wonderful, amazing treasurer, who serves as the facilitator for the committee. Officially, as the chair of the Finance Committee, Michael Cole will sit on that, and I will sit on that as well, but it will be chaired by our community co-chairs. All board members and community members, we hope that you tune in, that you learn, that you come, that you talk, and help us figure out the best way to move forward in our district when we ask all of the voters for some more assistance and resources. So thank you to those members who will be serving, and we will be getting you information soon. And the last announcement, just because I just want to make sure that everyone does know that that abatement project that we gave consent to today, it is going to City Council. We mentioned that earlier, but they will be acting on it in the February 24th meeting. So as Mr. Ragland encouraged you to do, continue following it civically and participate in the remainder of the process. Are there any other announcements from members of the board? Mr. Ragland?
Yes, February is Black History Month. Please make sure that you are celebrating every single day this month. Thank you.
And thank you for that. We will actually be doing something at the next meeting, so we haven't forgotten, but we will be doing something at the next meeting. Any other announcements? Okay. Well, we have no executive session this evening, so I will just need a motion to adjourn. Oh, they all wanted to. To call roll?
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
President Dare?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce? Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
That motion carried.
We stand adjourned. Thank you all.